This is the Retroid Pocket Flip. If you haven't seen it, Russ has an awesome video about that that came out earlier this week. I was setting this up, and one of the games that I always start with, I started playing, and I was like, okay, I love this game, but I always run into the same problem with this game. Maybe this time will be the time that I actually stick with this game that I love so much from my youth. And it got me thinking about what would I change about this game if I were to get it remade today. So I said to myself, you know what? We've seen some really, really good remakes this year. We've got the remake for Dead Space. Resident Evil 4 remake is fantastic. Metroid Prime Remastered is absolutely awesome. I had a blast playing Final Fantasy VII remake and Crisis Core remake. And so I thought a good conversation topic for this week would be, what is one game that you want to have remade more than any other game? And, you know, what style would it be in? And what would you change about the game? So I told everybody that we were going to be talking about this, and I figure I'm going to start with Rich. Rich, if you could pick a game to get remade,
Yep.
what game would it be?
So I'm not going to pick a game that was great when it launched. I'm going to go with a game that was, it got really mediocre reviews. It's called Anarchy Reigns. It's a game from Platinum Games, the same people that made Vanquish and Bayonetta and things like that. And it got, really mediocre reviews, but it was a really ambitious game. And I'd just love to see them kind of get another chance to do this. It was, multiplayer, like 16 players, I think. But it was brawling action, right? So not like shooting, but just hand-to-hand combat. So a little bit like a fighting game, but taking place in this sort of open battle arena. And it was a lot of fun, but like I said, it was rough around the edges. So I'd like to see them get another crack at that one.
So what would you change about it, if anything?
I don't know. I thought it was fun. I think, it one problem that it had is just there were not enough players. So maybe there's something there where they could make it more of a better fleshed out single player experience. I know that Street Fighter right now has sort of like the world tour mode, Street Fighter 6, where you can actually walk around and beat people up. So maybe there's something to having a one-on-one experience there as well. So I don't know. I'd like to let Platinum figure it out and just get another try because, they're geniuses over there.
Have any of you guys played, what was it called again? Anarchy what?
Anarchy Reigns.
Anarchy. Have either of you guys played Anarchy Reigns?
No, I love Vanquish. That was a great game.
Really good.
So I never played it either, but just from what you were saying, I think that would make a really good, and everybody's in chat is going to get mad at me, and people are going to yell at me in the comments. I think it would make a really good BR, like a battle royale with like 99 players and only one person left. I think that would be really fun. I know everybody loves to hate on battle royales, but I'm
all for that, actually. I love that idea.
Yeah, because all the battle royales, they all have the same thing. It's almost always about guns, and just having a game where it's about, your special abilities and like being up close and personal. I think that is really, really cool. Russ, if you could remake one game, now, Russ has probably got 1,000 answers for this because he's so heavily into retro stuff. But if you could remake one game, you only get one. Which would it be?
So I thought about this a lot, and I got a lot of good responses in the YouTube community post that we shared. And I'm going to go with the Metal Gear Solid series. And not even Metal Gear Solid, but Metal Gear, right? Like I jumped into the series from Metal Gear Solid on the PS1, and I had no idea what was going on. They're talking about all this other stuff that had happened before. I'm like, this didn't happen. Like, what are we talking about? I remember the Metal Gear game, but I just remember it being a super hard game on the NES, So I would love to see like all of that remade. And I don't know how they're going to really do that. I don't want it to be like a Mass Effect thing where they just kind of upscale the resolution and things like that. But I want a full on like repurposing of that entire storyline from start to finish, And so I don't know how that would work timeline wise. They'd start with Metal Gear Solid 5 and then kind of work their way up, or however and yeah, maybe cut out some of those cutscenes. But I do think that that would just be fun, is to have like a new entry into that entire series from start to finish, you know, because just reading the Wikipedia pages is confusing. Now imagine playing the game, you know, with 5 year like increments between them when you forgot everything that happened in the last one. And so that's really what I would like to see, is just some sort of reimagining of that entire franchise. And I know it's probably very unlikely with Hideo Kojima and all that stuff, but still, that's my
Well,
pick.
hey, I'm not asking you what you think is most likely. I'm asking what's your wish list. So you can say whatever you want. I have to make an admission, and people are going to be mad at me, as people often are. I never played any of the Metal Gear Solid games. A friend of mine had it, and we played it for maybe 10 minutes at his house, and then I just never. It didn't. It did. I wasn't like playing it and being like, "Wow, this is blowing me away. I got to play more of this," because I only played a little tiny snippet of it, and I feel like that game is more of a slow burn. But I do remember like playing the original on the NES and like, you know, giving the cigarettes to the guy and you know, finding the flashlight or whatever the hell it was. I can't remember now. But yes, that game was really really hard, and I always got killed really really quick. Carrie, are you going to be playing Russ's Metal Gear remake?
Yeah, there's actually a bunch of Fox lore with Metal Gear. There was a long giveaway that I did that involved a bunch of Metal Gear kind of deep pulls. And one of the things that a lot of people don't know about with the original Metal Gear for Nintendo is that the password screen is robust, and you can pretty much put in very specific things to create specific outcomes. And I use that as a means to figure out another part of the puzzle. But yeah, there's a lot to it. So yeah, I'm a big fan of, if they were to even do that, that's like a really cool thing. Yeah, but I'm on board.
All right. And what did you want to have remade?
So my game is something that I always bring up because no one plays this game ever, and I always come back to it. This is a game called Final Lap Twin. I played this in the 90s, and I was over my cousin's house, and it's a racing game. It only advertises itself as a racing game. So the main point of the game is just to, you know, be that a kind of a sim arcadey type of racing game. But there is a secondary option which is called story mode, which for me is the actual game. And I think it was just a throwaway thing that they did, but it's by far the absolute best, most amazing game ever. Imagine a Pokemon, right? Where you start off in the village and you go against the local champ, but in this you are a racer and you're racing against the local champs of the village. And as you go through, you're upgrading parts to your car that have a better engine, better tires, better body. So you have all of these things that it's very RPG like, but it's a racing game. And it remains to this day the best sports racing RPG I've played ever in my life. And no one's
The
making,
best.
yeah. So
I've never seen anything like this.
This is not the first time I've heard him talking about this.
I got to get more people to play it. I'm half a step away from just doing retro achievements, like making the achievements for Final Lap Twin myself, just so people can play. Like, oh, there's a achievement list for Final Lap Twin. It is. They don't make a bunch of sports RPGs, and the few that do exist, some of them are kind of misses to me. There is a good fishing RPG that I like, but yeah, this like kind of weird take. So I would love a remake of Final Lap Twin, which is a racing RPG. And I want to see that done in a better way. You know, all kitted out, some like Need for Speed, but like full on, you know, campy, going against the village champ type of thing, where you start off and you slowly level up until you get to the Grand Prix, and you know, very Pokemon like, but just racing instead of little monsters.
How do you feel about the Mario sports RPGs? The
Yeah, so
Mario Golf,
yes, yeah, those are actually pretty good. The ones by the people that made Golden Sun. They're good. I mean, they have a very Golden Sun feel to them. Like, you know, just the aesthetic of it. So that's the game that I would make. I would want. I don't. It doesn't have to be Final Lap Twin, right? It just needs to be a racing RPG, and you know, good.
I love the idea. Like you said, it's like Pokemon. I was like, okay, that's interesting. And I clicked on the dang video, and then literally it cut to the overworld where the characters wandering around, and it looked like a Pokemon game. Jang Mo in chat wants to know, what is the fishing game RPG that you were talking about? Do you know?
It's a Game Boy game. It's from the Game Boy. I can't think of the name, but it's for the Game Boy, and it's actually pretty decent. I played probably an hour of it and then never picked it up, but I was feeling it. So apologies, I don't remember the name.
All right.
Legend of the
Well,
River King.
Yes, I believe that is it.
there you
Sweet.
go.
I looked it up.
Legend of the River King. Awesome. So the one that started this whole thing for me is a Sega Genesis game, and it's one of the ones that every time I go to play a new emulation device, I always fire up Shining Force. And I thought, okay, I love Shining Force, but man, oh man, there are a lot of rough edges. Like just going to a shop and buying the stuff that you want. It's like, I would like to buy an herb. Okay, here is an herb. Who do you want to hold the herb? Okay, I'm going to give the herb to this guy. Okay, now I have to buy another herb. And now who do you want to hold this herb? And it's just like the store system is such a chore to get through that, like, what I would really like to see is for that friction to be removed from Shining Force as a game. And then you know, one thing that they could do, they could update the graphics so that they kind of look like Octopath. I think that would look awesome. For those of you that never played Shining Force, I know that on Nintendo systems, there's Fire Emblem is a very, very popular franchise where it's basically a tactical RPG turn-based system where you go in there and you're like, okay, I'm going to move this person over there and that person over there, and then use this to attack, and then it zooms in and you get to see how the different characters interact with each other. And that's basically, I went to look it up. I already put it in the dang show notes. That's basically how Shining Force works. It's very, very similar to Fire Emblem, but I always liked this a lot more than Fire Emblem. But man, it just needs some polish to. It was awesome back in the day. I rented it and played it at home on my Genesis, but I absolutely love this one. And I never played any of the sequels. Have you guys played any of the other Shining Force games?
No, I've never really played any Genesis RPGs. You know, I've always been kind of admiring them, but yeah, I've never gone into them.
Well, the problems with this aside, like the friction with the terrible store system, it's a really, really fun RPG. You end up having a base, and you end up like recruiting people to come to join the Shining Force, and then you go out and you're like, okay, I'm going to bring these people with me on this particular mission. Really, really fun game. So that's the one that I recommended. But you know, Russ, you mentioned it that we made a post where we were asking people to, you know, what did they think about this? And there were tons of really, really good answers. And I like that you were reading it and you noticed a lot of people were calling for Metal Gear to get a remake. So that's awesome. But some of the posts that I noticed, some of the answers that I noticed in the post, we had Rudo Helmi said Legacy of Kain series because overall the story is the best I've ever experienced in any game. I only ever played the first one of those.
That's the best one.
That's the best one. Okay, I think Richard, you had a video this week where weren't you playing one of those Legacy of Kain games, Soul Reaver?
Oh, yeah, my emulation video had a good bit of like Soul Reaver 2 in it. So yeah, I was playing that. It's a good game. It's sort of, you know, got overlooked because of when it came out early on in the PS2 life cycle, but it's probably just as good as Soul Reaver 1. It just, you know, didn't get the love.
Then Ben C says, I'm on the record of saying the remakes almost always suck. I disagree on that. That said, Legend of Zelda Oracles of Seasons and Ages in the same style as Link's Awakening for the Switch, please and thank you. Yeah, I'm all for that. I never played those two games. I had never played Link's Awakening until it came out on the Switch, and then I bought it and I was like, oh my God, this is a great game. I never finish games. I ended up finishing that one. So I would love to see Oracle of Seasons and Ages in the same style as Link's Awakening for the Switch. Did you guys play Link's Awakening?
Yep.
Yep. Both the old one and the new one.
So Russ, you played both the old one and the new one. Do you have a preference?
I really like the old one because I think it's just so innovative. You know, like the fact that that's playing on a Game Boy is just crazy. I played the DX one, so the Game Boy Color one, but still, it's it's crazy.
That's awesome. They call me Mr. Pips. It says Final Fight. That I always liked Final Fight more than Streets of Rage, and I would love to see a new Final Fight game. We got Streets of Rage 4
We did.
a couple of years ago, and that game's absolutely fantastic. But Final Fight, we haven't seen in a billion years, I feel like. And I loved to play that back on my Super Nintendo. But they went on to say Sifu proved the old school style beat 'em up can still innovate and sell well. Capcom has a deep history of the genre, and it's time to make a AAA comeback. Can you make that as a AAA game? What do you think about that, Carrie?
Final Fight as a AAA game, or like even just a brawler. And arcade brawlers are interesting. I don't know. You'd have to do something. Sifu at least is interesting insofar as that like it really gets into the dynamics of the fighting combat itself, and I think that is a good like pivot to make it a little bit deeper because most brawlers. I mean, typically the big move is just pressing two buttons together to do your like super to like use up some of your health. So yeah, I mean, like, you know, Battletoads got remade and that kind of just fell flat. So there has to be something bigger to it other than the arcade sense there, because that's the only thing that is really driving people to like want to play it. But I think many people bounce off of it really fast. So there needs to be some hook there, like what they're saying, the person suggesting with Sifu. There needs to be something there for that to happen.
I think a leveling system like Shredder's Revenge would be like that would keep me going. You know what I mean? Because I really enjoyed that one.
Shredder's Revenge was really good.
Yeah,
Also, just getting
go ahead.
yeah, Casey Jones. Just unlocking Casey Jones is
Right.
in and of itself reward.
I really liked
Put Casey
I
Jones
think-
in every game.
Yes, I 100% agree with that. Hitting people with a hockey stick is very, very fun. The thing about if they changed nothing about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, other than the sprites as to who they were, everything else is 100% the same. I don't think anybody plays that, which is a shame because it's awesome.
I have to agree. I'm going to agree with you here. I think that going heavy on any type of like modern AAA-ness, I don't know. I don't know if that would have been a wise choice. I think what the way they went was correct.
All right, and then
Hey, Bill?
finally, say that again.
I was going to call out some comments, but if you got another one, then
No, go ahead.
all right. So there were some in the comments, a lot of good ones. Kirby Air Ride was a good one, but there was one that was near and dear to my heart. I think it's Greenlight said the Time Splitters trilogy, and that was actually one of the ones I was thinking about because I was also thinking about like GoldenEye and Perfect Dark and just how those shooters have aged and how it'd be good to kind of bring them up to the modern standards. And I think Time Splitters was that, but we can do it again, right, in this generation. So I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, that one was from Travis, and they said updated player creation for maps in a / game mode. So being able to have players make their own maps for Time Splitters, that sounds cool. I never played Time Splitters, so I know nothing about that, but that sounds really cool. Did anybody else find comments that like jumped out to them that you guys wanted to talk about?
No, the only thing I saw from the moving comments was Time Splitters multiple times.
Yeah, me too.
See, I never played that, so I feel like I must have missed out. But hey, you know what? We all missed out on some games because we either didn't have the money for them or whatever back in the day. But I will say the most comments that came in were about Metal Gear Solid in that thread. So, the question is for all of you who are watching, what is the game that you would want remade more than anything else? What style would you want that game to be in? And what would you change about the original game?